Welcome. This is grade 3 math dive in 5 on representing and interpreting fractions, unit 16. My name is Daryl Frost.
And I'm Barbara Knox. Welcome to today's session.
In just a moment, you're going to pause the video, and you're going to complete the task on the next slide on your own or with your team or with a partner. As you are working through the task, reflect on the 3 questions you see on the slide. We would like for you to consider 1 to 2 misconceptions a student might have with the task, and then write 2 questions, literally write them on a piece of paper that would support their understanding. Happy problem solving.
We'll see you back in a few minutes.
So in this unit, I always like sharing this slide because I think it helps with the planning. When you're thinking about in this unit representing and interpreting fractions, take a look there at the actions that students will be doing as they make sense of what a fraction is. You know, representing, interpreting, which is in the title of the unit, but they're also
going to do a lot of interpreting in this unit.
Yes, and they have to read and write the fractions.
Yes.
And continue to partition. Looking at the nouns, which are to me is like the word wall. It's like my ready-made word wall, which I should have front and center as I'm teaching this unit.
Right.
So let's take a look here at the progression with BEST in terms of fractions. They're in first and second grade, they're doing a lot of partitioning with various shapes.
Into equal parts.
Into equal parts, but in third grade is where really formal instruction begins with fractions. And we're going to highlight within this Math Dive in 5, FR11, which is representing any fraction. It could be in the context of an area model. It could be in the context of a linear model. And what else, Barbara?
We're going to be doing set models, which is new to third grade.
Exactly. Right. And then what's the gist of FR12?
FR12, really we want to get into the composing and decomposing of fractions and fractions greater than 1, mixed numbers included, into unit fractions.
And it says adding, but we're really not adding.
We're not adding the fraction notation, we are adding the fraction pieces.
And it's only unit fractions.
Unit fractions in the composition and decomposition of fractions.
And we'll see more of that later.
We will.
So Barbara, here is the task that the third grade teachers just solved here.
Correct.
My first question for you is, what type of a model is this?
Well, Daryl, this is a set model.
And we had said earlier that that's explicitly taught now in grade 3. And typically it's a little harder for many children.
It is, because I would anticipate a lot of students would give a whole number response of 1 and turn this into a division problem.
So that's the misconception you could see, like they would say, what fraction of the candy will each student get? They're going to say the whole number 1.
So I'm going to take them back to that question that you just repeated. What fraction of the candy will each student get? We want to focus on the question and what is it asking for in a response?
So one question would be, what is the question asking that you would ask? What's another question that you could ask?
We want to get back to, we're asking for a fraction of the candy. So if I'm asking for a fraction of the candy, I have to know what the whole amount is. So what is the whole amount of candy?
So like how many total pieces are in the set?
Correct.
And I'm using that language set.
Yes. So how many pieces are in this set?
There are 8 pieces in the set.
So if there are 8 pieces in the whole set, where is that 8 going to go in my fraction?
Well, if it's the total number of pieces to make the whole, it's going to be the denominator.
It will be the denominator.
Yeah.
And now going back to the pieces that we're counting the pieces that one child gets. So how many pieces does one child get?
1.
And where would that number go in my fraction?
The numerator.
So the 1 would be the numerator, the 8 would be the denominator. What would my fractional answer be to this question?
The notation would be 1 of 8 equal size pieces.
Yes, 1 equal piece of the 8 total pieces.
Excellent. Okay. So here is task 2. You're going to pause the video in just a moment, complete the task on the next slide. As you are working through the task, reflect on the 3 questions you see on the slide. And just like with task 1, consider 1 or 2 misconceptions a student might have with the task and write a couple of questions that would support their understanding.
We'll see you back in a few minutes.
So as you see here, we have the total, the 3/8 combined into one representational model. A third grade student needs to be able to write or decompose a non-unit fraction such as 3/8 into its unit fractions as an equation, 1/8 plus 1/8 plus 1/8 equals 3/8, or just writing 1/8 plus 1/8 plus 1/8, excuse me, as an expression. So here we have several misconceptions and obstacles within this unit. I want to highlight the last one. And it says students may use the term of when explaining fractions, out of. So when you've heard Barb and I model this correctly, at least I hope we have for the most part.
Yeah,
but
for the most part.
When students use 1 out of 4 to describe 1/4, what might they think?
Well, they might think about subtracting. I'm taking 1 away from the 4.
Or it's missing.
Right.
Yeah.
So
Instead of doing that, we should want to model this. Students should use the phrase 1 equal part of 4. And like we've been working with 8s in these 2 tasks, it's 1 equal part of 8.
But we've even added to that. So 1 equal part of 8 parts that make the whole.
That make the whole,
so
yes.
Going back to the meaning of that denominator is how many parts makes the whole. So using that in our language is going to help students.
So I'm going to say that again. I'll model that again. 1 equal part of 8 equal parts to make the whole.
Right. So 1 equal part of the 8 parts that makes the whole.
That describes the fraction more accurately. So here you see the CRA, the concrete representational abstract process, concrete with a candy problem, or you even drawing those rectangles you see there. I could be using square tiles, any kind of manipulative, depending on set, model, linear, area. And then you have a representation there. The candy could be represented by those square tiles.
I could draw circles in my notebook.
You could draw circles, anything. And then, of course, the fraction notation. They need to be able to notate it as 1/8, going back to the, and then also word form and looking at 1 equal part of 8 or 1/8. Yep.
Thank you for joining us for this session of Math Dive in 5 for grade 3.
We'll see you next time.
Bye.